Welcome to a 1,000 subscriber and a 1,000 kilometer special. I thought I would just quickly touch base on sort of the experience so far on the first 1,000 kilometers with the VinFast VF8. Some of the things that features that I quite enjoy, and maybe some of the opportunities for improvement. So to start off, what I've actually found in sort of the warmer temperatures recently is certainly the fast charging speeds. I've noticed I've been able to get as high as 90 kilowatts. I understand that some future software updates should allow for the 150 kilowatt and potentially even some higher charging rates. So that's certainly a welcome improvement that hopefully will come shortly in the next software update. Another feature as well that works quite well, and I'll just switch is the feature here to use the ADAS, or the assisted driving, which is activated by pressing this steering wheel button, and then you'll get the indications on your heads-up display. That works extremely well, and it will prompt you if you take your hands off the wheel. Sorry, I guess at nighttime here I'm getting this infrared off the steering wheel. But again, this is the ADAS activation. This here is your standard adaptive cruise control. And actually, what I did find, and I didn't go into this in a lot of detail in one of my earlier videos, but this limb actually stands for limit, or speed limit. And essentially what it does is, because the vehicle can actually read the speed limits off the street signs, and again, it works extremely well, and the heads-up display will show you the speed limit. And I found, it's exact, like the moment. And I guess this is another feature that I think is quite cool, is the camera system up here is able to detect, and as soon as you pass that speed limit sign, it's right away adjusting the speed limit indication on your heads-up display, as well as on your video or infotainment screen, or the main screen here, whatever you like to call it. So back to this limit mode. What this would do in theory is it would keep your vehicle at the recommended speed limit. So again, if you're maybe traveling on some country roads, and as quite often the case, you can go from, say, 80 kilometers or maybe 60 miles, and then as you get into town, the speed limits will drastically reduce, and quite often there's the police hiding out to try to catch you when, say, in town the speed limits drop to maybe from 60 to 40 kilometers an hour, or 80 to 60. This in theory will reduce your speed and keep you at the posted speed limits. I haven't actually tried this particular feature, but and from what I read online, I think there is a bit of work to be done with the software. But again, if that's of interest, certainly a great feature to have. And as indicated here on the steering wheel, you can increase or reduce your gap between your vehicle and the car in front of you when you're using the adaptive or the ADAS features, or actually, even with the adaptive cruise control. This certainly would keep you and keep your gap to the preference that you set. So that's great. So let me just think here. I started doing this video on the spot as I'm doing some charging. Another feature which I think is quite good in comparison to, say, my last EV that I had, which was a Bolt EUV, range indication. So I unfortunately it did get quite low in range, and was very thankful to be able to pull into this IV charger here. And unfortunately, this particular charger will max out at 50 kilowatts, and I'm getting 48 kilowatts. So that's to be expected, considering that the vehicle's on, it's running some components. So losing a few kilowatts. But again, I guess a couple things I'll mention relating to this. So I'll wrap up my comment about the range. So with my Bolt EUV, essentially around this particular point here, 40 kilometers, it would basically just stop telling you what your range is on the vehicle, and it would just essentially tell you, charge your vehicle. And then your only other indication would be these two bars on your screen that in theory would show you, essentially, okay, once your second bar goes away, you have one bar remaining, and that one bar starts flashing, but you really had no idea between, that 40 kilometer range to zero, how much you could actually drive. I mean, and even if you tried to time, and this was one of my pet peeves with the EUV, is even if you, tracked your driving for 40 kilometers, that actually wasn't even accurate, because I can remember distinctly last summer, I was if anyone's familiar with the Toronto area here, I was in Mississauga going eastbound on Eglinton, and I knew I was due for a charge. I was just trying to make that left turn to go north on Dixie to pull into the Canadian Tire and use a flow charger, and it was flashing, and I figured, okay, I've only driven probably 10 kilometers since the low battery indication came up, and the car just shut off. It literally in the lane, in the left turn lane, I could see the charger, just all I needed was probably maybe less than a kilometer to go, but the vehicle just shut off with no indication. And I thought, and I was frustrated, because again, I mean, I had 40 kilometers, I barely drove maybe 10, and somehow I lost that 40 kilometers, and I don't know why and how. And the other thing I learned the hard way, and this might be, and I'm not too sure how it would work in the VinFast, it may be similar, but I thought I was smart, because when I called the CAA and they towed me from the lane through the intersection to the charger, I thought, well, told me to the parking spot with the fast charger, may as well, because again, let's try to get 50 kilowatts charge, because that's what the Bolt would charge at. But got towed, plugged in, tow truck went away. But no, lo and behold, the Bolt would say, sorry, can't fast charge, because when your range drops to zero, I guess there's this safety feature, which I won't discount, it must be a good thing, but you can't fast charge when your battery's completely depleted, because I guess there's a safety feature that the fast charging would be maybe too much input for the battery. And I had to call CAA again, and that even took another half an hour, just because of a busy afternoon. And again, I had to get another tow from out of one spot to go 2 spots over to the slow level 2 charging. And I sat there, and I actually then had to take an Uber, because I had some other errands to run, and the kids needed to be picked up from summer camp. So I plugged into this level 2 charger, and I had it sitting there, and I was monitoring it remotely. And it wasn't even a matter of plugging in the level 2 and it all of a sudden started to charge. It took probably 45 minutes to an hour, I suspect, before the Bolt even woke up and started to charge normally. So lesson learned, not to let it run down to empty. But again, what I'll say, I'm quite impressed to hear with the VinFast, and even just in the time of me talking here, jumped up to 55 kilometers in the charging. It will, and in this instance, I got down to 11 kilometers, and then got down to 8 kilometers. I mean, I was very close to the charger. Unfortunately, I was just waiting for somebody to wrap up their charging in order for me to move over and take the spot. But essentially, it looks like the VinFast will actually allow you and give you an accurate reading down to zero. I certainly don't recommend getting down to zero instead of the conventional internal combustion vehicles when you're running low on gas, but at least the range indication is accurate. On a related note, and maybe sort of a pet peeve, but one I won't blame the VinFast for, because it isn't anything within their control. But one of my pet peeves, and just my time driving an electric vehicle in Canada, and even, for that matter, on road trips through the US, is, I'll be honest with you, the EV infrastructure is no way ready for prime time. I mean, buying the vehicle, I guess, being in technology, I was curious, and I didn't buy the vehicle for environmental reasons, because again, if you look into how these vehicles are produced, and in terms of the batteries and the mining, I mean, it's I think it's crazy if anyone is trying to sell you today that these vehicles are more environmentally friendly. I mean, that's certainly not do your homework. They're great vehicles, and you can save money in terms of the charging, but don't buy it for environmental reasons, in terms of how they're produced. But again, that's no fault of a manufacturer. But my point is, these politicians, especially in Canada, trying to mandate that we all move to electric vehicles by, I think the timing is 2030. I mean, there's just no way. I mean, I'm sitting here at this gas station here, and probably in the 10 minutes or so that I was waiting for this EV charger, I mean, there must have been 25 vehicles pulling in and out and being able to fill up their tanks in 2 to 4 minutes. I mean, how possibly is that going to work if we all are moving to electric vehicles? I mean, we've seen the shots of the Teslas being lined up at their superchargers. I mean, I guess, sure. I mean, if maybe there's some drastic investment and somehow the land is converted and there's EV chargers of 30, 40 on several intersections to replace gas stations, I mean, maybe it's feasible, but there's no way. I mean, here I am at this charging station right off the 401 busy highway, and again, it's chargers. It's this one and this one, and lo and behold, this charger here, sure, it says welcome, but Ivy, sorry, you got some homework to do, because the CCS connection, which is what I need, it's frozen here on the screen, and I mean, it's hard to see, but it says please disconnect from vehicle. Well, the CCS connection is certainly disconnected from the vehicle because it's sitting right there in the charger, but you can use the Chamadio or the one that the Leaf uses, but I mean, let's face it, what percentage of vehicles are using that charger? I mean, I think the Nissan Leaf have ever only been the only vehicles I've ever seen, and they're certainly few and far between. But again, my point is, from an infrastructure perspective, here we are, Weston in the 401, a major stopping point for anyone on road trips through Toronto, and there's 2 chargers here, and effectively only 1 charger is functional. I mean, it's sad, and I would even try charging at another charger closer to home, and again, those 2 IV chargers, both of them completely out of service, 0 out of 2, and I had to that's why I was losing some range and getting some range anxiety driving up here to this charger. But again, just from my perspective, we were huge. There's a extremely long way to go in order for these EV vehicles to be adopted, and I just think it's sad, with this infrastructure, and even and maybe it's just particular to Ivy, because when we've gone on road trips to northern Ontario, you try to drive, let's say, to North Bay, and your EV apps will tell you, oh, just pull off in Huntsville and use the IV fast charger at the Harvey Swiss Chalet. Well, guess what? The IV charger at the 2 stations at that Huntsville charger have been offline, I think, for probably going on a year now. And I even contacted Ivy at one point, knowing when we had the road trip, and they give some excuse. Oh, we're waiting for parts. I mean, okay, you run a charging network, and this is really all you do, and this is the one charger that basically, if you're driving from Toronto to Northern Ontario, your route that takes you through Huntsville, because there's no other fast chargers, and they're offline. So I had to change a route, and I think I went through if I remember correctly, Bracebridge. Any case, it again, you got to replan your route. So it can be done. It's interesting. I mean, again, from a technology perspective, I guess I enjoy the challenge, but it certainly some work to be done. And again, I don't fault VinFast for that. The only comment that I'll make that I guess is in VinFast control, which has been a bit frustrating over the last 1,000 kilometers, is with my particular vehicle, I did get 1 year of free charging. Now that's done through a Charge Hub network, and the only chargers really in the Toronto area that makes sense to use, which are the fast chargers, are through the Shell charge points. And the Shell EV chargers are few and far between, and the one that I've tried to use a few times in Rexdale, I think that's named Rexwood. Any case, just off the 427 at Rexdale Boulevard. And again, that's another charging station where one of two, I tried a couple days ago pulling in, only one of two of the chargers are operational. So there's again another fault. And so Ivy's down one of two, Shell's down one of two. I mean, I don't know what's happening with these chargers. I mean, they look like they have power, the cables are there, but I guess there's some internal fault, and clearly there isn't the servicing. I mean, let's face it, if a gas station had gas pumps that were inoperable, I mean, these gas stations and companies are quite quick to resolve those issues. But for some reason, when it comes to these EV chargers, they just let them sit, and one of two, and I'll probably, and if I put some money on it, that Shell station will or Shell charger probably, that second charger, 33335, will be offline probably for a month or more. I mean, I don't know who services these. But back to the VinFast, what I found is a bit of a pet peeve is the free charging can only be activated through the VinFast app. And for a few weeks, the VinFast app lost connectivity to the Shell chargers. So essentially, you couldn't use the VinFast app to activate the charging session, and you could, I had no issues doing it through the Shell app. What it just meant is, of course, paying, which fine, I'll pay for the charge, but that promotion of the free charging. And then I did contact the VinFast Canadian customer service, and I say Canadian in the sense that you're contacting a Canadian email, but I suspect that the customer service center may actually be in Vietnam. But unfortunately, and again, this is maybe the one criticism I have of VinFast is the customer service. Unfortunately, the English and sort of the messages you get don't really make a lot of sense in terms of them, I think, understanding the issue and what you're trying to explain to them in terms of you have the free charging and yet you're paying for the charge, and they give you some explanation that they've escalated this to a charging team, and it's like, okay, great, the charging team. And then I sort of asked, okay, is it possible then to be reimbursed for these charges? And they're like, oh, well, we'll have to reach out to the charging team, but send us the receipts. So I sent them the receipts, and I followed up because actually the issue with that one charger is now actually working through the VinFast app. So I contacted them this week, and I asked them, okay, well, clearly I guess you fix this, or your quote-unquote charging team has fixed this issue, because I'm now able to charge through this one charger for free. So I said, is there an update on my on the reimbursement? And then the email, and this is where I made the comment about I don't think they really understand what you're asking, because they come back and they say, well, the issue is still under investigation by the charging team and is yet to be resolved, and we'll let you know when it's resolved and reimbursement. And I'm thinking, well, I just told you it's been resolved. I've been able to do the free charging. So, it is what it is. I guess the free charging was nice. In theory, I guess contractually, it's how far do you take it? It's I guess a bonus when it works, and I don't know if I'll ever see this reimbursement. It's just it is what it is. But so again, I guess to wrap that up in terms of some areas for improvement with the VinFast would probably be their app, and the app development, because clearly there seems to be some hiccups when it comes between this charging session and communication with these third-party charging providers. I don't fault them though in terms of some of the other capabilities, because again, my Chevrolet Bolt, my Chevrolet app, and we all know Chevrolet is a huge North American and even a worldwide organization, and probably has a lot of developers and IT people behind it. And I'll be honest, the Chevrolet app was garbage. I mean, it barely worked. A few times it did, a few times it didn't. Most of the time it didn't, in terms of being able to start my car remotely, get status on my charging sessions remotely. Again, I don't fault VinFast for that, for some of the work they need to do, because or at least too much, because when it comes to other EVs and Chevrolet, I mean, there's a huge amount of work that they have to do, because when I traded in the vehicle, the app still wasn't working, and it was even to the point where I had to contact and get refunds from OnStar, because why am I paying for some of these connected features that aren't even working through the app? Now, I guess ironically, that was a very easy discussion and got those reimbursements very quickly. But anyways, so that some areas for improvement. But back to sort of more positive items. Here, the ambient lighting is really quite I guess cool. It's really quite neat, and in the front, around the vehicle here, and even in the rear. And what also is quite interesting is, and I was curious if maybe I had a problem at first, but it's something they don't really explain, but it's a cool feature. But the ambient lighting actually flashes red, so regardless of what color you have it set on, if you're parked and or you're driving and there's potentially some obstacles that it detects, it will actually flash. So you get a nice indication that there's some obstacles or things that you should be aware of. So I think that was quite intelligent that they built that into the ambient lighting programming. The works flawlessly. The fast charging, as I mentioned, works great. Some of the other features are all working great. Unlike maybe some of the other feedback that I've seen from some other VinFast drivers, I've had no issues really, and that have prevented me from ever driving the vehicle or getting started with any particular errand, or my or essentially nothing has interfered with my driving. I've read, online that some drivers had, have experienced some issues maybe with cooling faults or others, but knock on wood, I haven't experienced that. What I do find interesting, and I think that, again, maybe with the programming, I think, and I can sort of appreciate this with my Bolt EUV, and I think it's a lot of things that EV drivers may not realize, but I recognize this with my Bolt. So if you charge your car or charge your EV to 100%, every EV, I believe, has some form of regenerative braking. But what the Bolt would do is it would clearly indicate that, okay, if you charge your battery to 100%, you have to keep in mind that you're not going to be able to gain any range through the regenerative braking for probably about 20 to 30 kilometers, because again, your battery's full. So if your battery's full and you try, the system is smart enough to know, well, your battery's already full, you've charged it to 100%, so there's really no regenerative braking until maybe you've driven 20, 30 kilometers and you've depleted that 30 kilometer range, so then you actually have some room in the battery for it to actually then activate the regenerative braking feature and then actually help replenish the battery. What I found is the VinFast, and again, I guess it's sort of these tweaks, and maybe some drivers may not recognize this, but if I charge if I don't normally do this, but if I do charge to 100% for 20 to 30 kilometers of driving, I get these, brief dings and messages on the screen that say regenerative braking fault. And I think, again, it's not a fault. I think just that the programming isn't there, and something that VinFast just has to tweak a bit to show that, okay, my battery's at 100%. It can't recharge the battery, and it's not a fault per se, because it's the battery's full, and the system just needs you to drive. You just need to drive your 20-30 kilometers or so to create, for lack of a better explanation, like some room in the battery, so to speak, so that you can actually activate and use the regenerative braking. And sure enough, I drive the 30 kilometers, those warnings go away and regenerative braking starts working. So some tweaks there, but for people that may not know that, and I learned that through my Chevrolet Bolt experience, so some little tweaks, but again, the regenerative braking I think works great, and is another nice feature. It's certainly, if you do a lot of city driving, you get the benefit of the regenerative braking. It's EVs are interesting, and in the sense that say if you were driving an internal combustion vehicle, if you're doing city driving, from my experience, you're going to find your fuel economy will just drop, and you'll just essentially eat fuel. Like, so if you're doing city driving, start stops, your fuel economy will be very poor in your internal combustion vehicle. Whereas in an EV, if you're doing a lot of city driving and start stop because of the regenerative braking, you may find that you've got 300 kilometers on the range. You do your start stop to go the 10-20 kilometers on your errand, and you may find very little reduction in your range. On the flip side, of course, if you're an internal combustion vehicle and driving on a highway, that's where, as long as you're not speeding or going, essentially, as long as you're not speeding and you're going, say, 100 kilometers an hour or so, or just over. But anyways, on the highways where you're going to get your best fuel economy. On the flip side, with an EV, you're driving and say going your 120, your battery is just eating battery. You're getting zero regenerative braking. You're just, if it's smooth sailing and you're driving an hour or 2 hours, say, on the 401 without stopping, you're just gonna, on the EV side, you're gonna your battery will just, your range will drop per what would be expected. You're driving 100 kilometers, your range will drop 100 kilometers. Whereas, in internal combustion, you might find, the range calculation may fluctuate because you're improving your fuel economy. So, something that is interesting, but again, with the VinFast, it's been a great experience there. Another cool feature, certainly, and actually now that I have a bit of range on my vehicle, I can start. So let me just start the vehicle here. But another, fasten seatbelts, sure. Another really awesome feature, and I think I went through this in one of my initial videos, but this heated and cooling seats for not only the front, but also the rear. I mean, that, to me, and the fact that you can independently control that is, really quite amazing. And, the temperature, I mean, I'll be honest, it heats up very quickly, or the cooling starts up right away, and even the heated steering wheel. So a lot of praise to VinFast for that. That works, extremely well. And, the heads-up display here, other features. These are all, in my view, really neat, and they've done a great job with that. The wireless Android Auto works extremely well as well, and where I found my Bolt would often disconnect, or I would all of a sudden get into my vehicle and I'd have to reconnect my phone. I've never had to do that with the VinFast, so kudos to them for that. An interesting feature, and maybe sort of something that I'll share with fellow VF8 drivers. I was actually quite curious. Now, normally this button here, which is actually, looks like a power button, but you know, when through with VinFast, when you take delivery of the vehicle, they'll tell you that how you turn off your vehicle is to lock it either by the remote or the door handle button on the driver's door. But it was actually this week, and so let me just try here. But under normal circumstances, this here mutes your audio, and this is your volume control. And as I can just show you, this is your volume control, and this is your mute. Yep, there you go. I guess I don't have any audio right now, but let me just push and hold this here, and I think it takes about maybe 10 to 15 seconds. But let's say you're sitting in your vehicle and you don't want to lock the doors through the remote. But let me just show you. I'm holding the button here. Yeah, there we go. So you can turn off your car. Well, I mean, I guess if that, I mean, wow, I guess maybe we get excited about the small things, but it's something that I haven't really seen advertised. Yep, there you go. The car is, I mean, it's charging, so some functions are still working. And also as well, oh, there's the flashing indication I was mentioning. I think there was just another vehicle potentially trying to take one of the spots here. Now, because I'm sitting in the vehicle, again, it's quite intelligent that through the sensors, both in the front and the rear, it's able to detect that I'm sitting here. So it's still, I think what's done, it's restarted here, but you know, there's obviously some functionality built into this. This could even be a scenario where maybe you push and hold this for 15 seconds or so and get out of your vehicle and it's off, right? So this might be, you know, replace your start stop, or maybe this is, you know, if there's a passenger in your vehicle that's, you know, you as a driver with the keys, get out of the vehicle, but and maybe your passenger wants to turn off the car when they leave. I'm curious, maybe this is an option. So something I just discovered. I can't say I've heard anybody else to mention that, nor have I read that before. So there you go. I know it's, you know, these small things. This, of course, are your power door locks and your hazard lights right here. But that I discovered this week. So all in all, I guess here I am sitting. I'm now up to 158 kilometers on the range. I'll probably stop here. It's getting a bit late, but I've done about 30 minutes of talking, it looks like. But yeah, it's been, again, great experience so far on these first 1,000 or so kilometers. I guess to be fair, and I guess a bit of when I captured the rollover, and here I am at 2,400. So yeah, I guess there you go. Even at 2,400, I guess my point is, you know, after your first 1,000, you know, you stop counting per se. Yeah, everything has been great. Everything is working very well. You know, and even the getting lots of compliments. I mean, all you know, every day or every few days that I've been driving the vehicle, you know, I'll be at a red light or at a you know, running an errand at the grocery store or wherever it may be. People asking about the vehicle. They like the style, like the design, and just a lot of compliments. So certainly the styling of the vehicle, the drivability, even the price point. I think you know, VinFast has done a great job, and with some of these software enhancements, it can only get better. And yeah, I guess that's my update so far on my first month or so, give or take a week, I believe, of driving. But everything's, you know, has been great, and you know, even following up with you VinFast, even my dealer reaching out shortly after purchasing the car, just introducing themselves as a service department, but haven't needed to reach out for any other issues. But it's good to know that they're there. And yeah, I guess that's what that's my update for this evening. And if anyone has any questions, certainly feel free to ask away in the comments. I've read online that some people are maybe kind of curious, like I was, about jumping ship and moving, say, to the VinFast, but I've been very happy with it. And I think unlike other manufacturers that have faced some challenges, I think the fact that VinFast is pricing their vehicles, especially with the VF8, with the dual motor all-wheel drive, with a starting price around 50 or so thousand, I think makes sense. I mean, if you're trying to sell a Tesla with all-wheel drive, dual motor, Model Y, and you're approaching 80,000, 90,000, I mean, and especially at these higher finance rates, I mean, how do you justify? I mean, you can't justify in terms of making back your money compared to your fuel costs, unless the fuel costs continue to rise, which of course they have been doing in recent days because of our carbon tax. At least I'll say they've been rising in Canada. But again, I mean, if you're buying an $80,000-$90,000 vehicle, or some of the feedback, we're reading about the Rivians, 100,000 plus, or 120, 130,000. I think I was reading that Rivian essentially is losing, 20 to 30,000 on every vehicle that they sell. I mean, again, I don't know what the future has in store for some of these manufacturers. I know in California, I think it was the Fisker, was facing bankruptcy over the last few weeks. Even Tesla, with their layoffs. So I think there has to be a balance in terms of the pricing. At least that's my perspective. You have to make sure that your pricing is competitive and you're offering a full-featured product with that at that price point. And I think VinFast is doing that, so that's good. Again, these are my personal views, and no way influenced, or certainly no promotions or payments or any benefits aside from the 1 year free charging that was offered to me and anybody else who bought the 2023 models of the VF8. So again, these are my own views, and again, I'll certainly, if there are items that that I do find are challenging or frustrating, or if I do run into some issues, I'll certainly share those and be transparent. But yeah, all in all, it's been very positive. I'll just quickly give one last example. Like when I bought my Chevrolet Bolt EUV in 2022, my rear driver's taillight had this imperfection. I guess the best way I could describe it is the coloration of the red was just completely off, and on a quick walk around you may not notice it, but you look at the tail light and you can see it. And I had to call it out to the dealer, because again, you're paying good money for these vehicles, and yet you're buying a vehicle that has this glaring imperfection in the driver's rear tail light. And that made it past the quality control of Chevrolet. And again, I don't know, however they check over these vehicles before they leave the factory. And I don't know, as the saying goes, if I got the Friday car or something. But for somebody to not only get that part, so this part goes through the inventory in the factory, somebody puts that into the stock and then takes that part, puts it on the vehicle, and it gets out of the factory, and all these checks that I would expect that that they would be doing, and nope, didn't didn't catch, and even the dealer delivered the vehicle to me without, maybe they did, give them benefit of the doubt, they didn't notice it, but I noticed it basically within several hours of taking the vehicle home, and the dealer, no issues, they certainly said no problem, we'll fix it, but they don't stock these taillights, and it took probably 3 weeks for them to order the part from Detroit or wherever in the US. So they ordered these parts and had to basically drop the car off for a day because of it wasn't an easy fix apparently to replace this taillight. But I guess that's my point, that I had none of those issues with the VinFast, and this was a car coming from Vietnam, and we're talking about a car company that has 3 dealers in Ontario, and yet no issues, and yet a huge organization like Chevrolet and the Bolt EUV, and these items slip past all these quality control checks, and to me that is just unacceptable. I mean, sure, it's nice that they fixed it, but I have to scratch my head and be like, how did this make it essentially through all these different checkpoints, and why was this satisfactory for Chevrolet to send that car with that defect to the end user? Anyways, I guess that my point there is, no issues, no faults with the VinFast. It's been great, and I'll check in with you maybe in the next few thousand or so kilometers. But that's great. And again, any other questions, feel free to put those in the comments. And if this video is being of interest, feel free to like and subscribe. Have a great night.